Well, as my producer John put it, if you like systems, this is the segment for you. Let me explain. Lots of active weather. We'll start off with this deep upper level low trough in the jet stream. It acts as a storm factory and we get storms, one type of low pressure system, clippers in the prairies, another type of low pressure system forming as a result. Rain continues today, tonight, tomorrow through Wednesday. Significant amounts that you'll see detailed with numbers in your local forecast 3 minutes from now. Wet, but not quite as windy. Gusty in the morning, less windy in the afternoon, evening for the south coast, lower mainland. Systems. All right, let's take a look at the Pacific energy as it's reformed into a clipper, moving across Saskatchewan and Manitoba through the afternoon, evening, and on into northern Ontario. The winds bend to come out of the north behind the low, and temperatures correspondingly cool down. Shift into Ontario where it's fairly gray with a few sunny breaks today, tomorrow, Wednesday, cloud cover, then rain to follow, rain with snow to follow in northern Ontario. So a brief cool down in temperatures here and then above zero again with the next storm. And where does that come from? You guessed it. Our BC system, it's a stormy week. And again, it goes back to that upper level trough, that deep pool of cold air in the upper atmosphere that I showed you right off the top. That is a breeding ground for storm systems. So as we start to improve late Wednesday in BC, that energy reforms east of the Rockies, isobars multiplying, which means the low is intensifying, and there's a little bit of wet snow here in the south, warm enough that there could briefly be a rain shower, but overall it's cold enough for snow. Warm air ahead, cold air behind, the low on the move Thursday, Friday, northern Ontario, and the storm gets some energy from the U.S. A new center takes over, and this becomes a weekend storm. If you haven't heard anything about it just yet, now's the time to get up to speed. Colorado low, which is a classic storm system for this time of year, very typical as the energy comes from the U.S. south, the Rockies, comes up, meets up with cold Arctic air, helps to draw in warm, moist air from the more southerly latitudes, and that, with the open water of the Great Lakes, is a prime breeding ground for strong storms and for them to intensify rapidly. The rain-snow line should push north of the Nickel Belt. There will be significant snow to follow and some periods of heavy rain that for some will start Friday night. Saturday rain, Saturday night the snow starts to take over, and with well-aligned winds we could see some whiteouts in this risk zone streaming off Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, cold aloft, warmer surface, and a really good indication of a 12-hour strong window within that time period. And I think Sunday is going to be the worst of it. That's what the forecast models are all pointing towards in terms of timing. Some of that energy will reach you in Quebec. Today it's fairly quiet. We had some snow in Halifax this morning. One low moves away, clips the Avalon Peninsula with a few showers. More energy moves in Thursday, and Thursday, Friday, an intensifying low just offshore. Watch these winds increase in speed. This is a rapidly intensifying low that will bring very gusty winds and could cause some travel delays. There is it on Saturday and our Great Lakes storm on the march. Systems, systems, systems. We're all about the systems. As I mentioned when we spoke before your last local forecast, low pressure systems, areas of low pressure, air sinking, gusty winds. 1, 2, 3 areas of low pressure. Do I hear more? Yes, there's a fourth for the BC coast. And in between, high pressure, but not especially strong ridging today. So we've got a fair bit of cloud cover. Ontario's trying to clear out. We've seen some sunshine down in Regina this morning, parts of southern Saskatchewan. Tuesday to Wednesday, we watch another low progress into BC, another low move into northern Ontario. The first of 2 rounds of snow, and we've got a rapidly intensifying low setting up to blast past Atlantic Canada by the time we get to Friday. So weather systems on the move. In wintertime, the winds aloft, the jet stream winds tend to be stronger. That helps to fuel low pressure development. It also can move, but not always, systems along fairly briskly. Now, clipper systems move through pretty briskly, and we've got one today that's produced a few centimeters of snow still on top of the 10 or so that you had yesterday and last night. This is an area around the capital region that is basically winding down today, whereas these other areas further north will see more snow moving in. We've got a departing low and a new system. If I look ahead to Thursday, that'll be the position of our new low, tracking across the prairies as Thursday we start to get a bit of a break in the pattern for BC. Big windstorm yesterday. You're not out of the active weather pattern just yet. This is the peak time of year when we tend to see a lot of storms develop. Very interesting as we track our Great Lakes storm, though. Prairie Clipper, Colorado low taking charge, drawing in that energy, and we'll see warm enough air that we'll have rain in southern Ontario, Georgian Bay, Muskoka, Algonquin, all the way up through the Nickel Belt region in all likelihood. But this is snow, and by Saturday p.m., late day, we'll be changing over to snow. Powerful low, gusty winds. The rain could start as early as Friday night in parts of the west, southwest. Snow in northern Ontario on top of a little bit of snow for tomorrow, a couple of centimeters. This could be a significant 20 or even 40 centimeters of snow for some of the hardest hit areas in the north. Now that I realize is down towards the Nickel Belt region. This is one model's depiction, and the reason for showing you this is so that you can see how highly variable the snow amounts are. It really is a warm system for millions of Canadians, but how significant the snow accumulation will be in parts of the north. The south will get some lake effect snow, and that's your story there. And as we clear out today from a couple of centimeters of snow in Halifax, a brief break for Wednesday. We love our weather tools and leveraging the best ones to show, illustrate, and explain why the weather's doing what it's doing and what you can expect. Satellite and radar, last 4 hours, big spin of low pressure. Counterclockwise, speckled cloud, an indication of cold air aloft. The radar showing that green stream, that's rain. Again for the south coast, and this wet stretch is continuing today, tomorrow. Deep trough continues to be a favorable setup for unsettled and at times stormy weather. Windstorm yesterday in BC, a little bit of snow in Edmonton and along the Yellowhead this morning. Exiting Manitoba later today. More energy from the Pacific, and late Wednesday, Thursday. This will be a reformed new Alberta Clipper. Temperatures up and down in the prairies with snow as a result. Local forecast is just 2 minutes away, and your latest long ranger is seconds away to show you what's coming next. We do have an intense low in the next couple of days for Atlantic Canada. You had a little snow in Halifax this morning. It'll be warm enough for showers tomorrow. Showers Toronto, but what happens with storms? Take a look. Snow and cold, temperatures up and down. You know, we were close to 10 degrees briefly yesterday in Calgary. Today, sub-zero, cold front coming through, taking the temperatures down. Ahead of it, well, ahead of a low, you get a warm southerly flow typically with the circulation. So it's actually been above zero today, north of Lake Superior. How about that? And there's snow stretching up past Pickle Lake and coming down past Lake Winnipeg. Winnipegosis, Lake Manitoba. Conditions a little snowy still through the overnight, but most of the energy will start to transfer here around the Great Lakes. If you're just joining us, we've got a kind of a classic Great Lakes storm shaping up by the weekend. This is just a precursor, if you will. It will be rain in the south. The rain-snow line will be a little further south than on the weekend. Well, it's kind of variable. Depends on where you're joining us from. You can see Timmins, the rain, but it will be followed by snow. We'll have several rounds of snow. Let's pick it up, shall we, with Wednesday and Thursday with our latest Clipper system for the prairies. The track's a little further north in terms of the precipitation placement. Alberta, we may get a few centimeters around Edmonton, but most of it's to the north, and then the load starts to dive south. Isobars multiply, there's quite a storm brewing. A Colorado low rushes into the Great Lakes from the U.S., absorbs the prairie energy. Rain, snow. Behind this, we'll see significant cold air and lake effect snow, a wet day Saturday, and windy weather. For some in Ontario, it will start as early as Friday overnight, and Saturday overnight really picking up for the province of Quebec. Lake effect potential. All right, what's all this about? Well, we need well-aligned winds, and we have a solid 12-hour window, it looks like, on Sunday, during which, if we have lake effect snow bands set up, this is the kind of setup where we can see a couple of centimeters an hour. If it lasts for 12 hours, well, you can do that math. Warm lakes and cold temperatures aloft. And we need that temperature spread, well-aligned winds, moisture. The lakes provide that, and then we can get some significant snow. So this is a pretty classic setup, and we're locking in the forecast as we get closer to the time as to where the biggest amounts of snow are likely to be. All right. Not a big amount of snow, but Halifax got a couple centimeters this morning. The low moves out. There's more active weather in the coming days. That weekend storm is going to be reaching you. The west coast, big windstorm with a deep upper level low. A lot less gusty today, but still windy. And on your local forecast in just a moment, you'll see the current numbers. Generally, they're dying down, easing up as the day goes on, but still rain and snow. All right, the Weather Watch continues. Here we go with a look at our systems, plenty of systems. Fall is typically a very active weather pattern, and we've got a departing low that actually delivered some snow today, this morning in Halifax. We've got a clipper system clipping quickly across the prairie provinces, and its source, the Pacific. And we've got another storm in what is proving to be a very stormy week in British Columbia. If you're just joining us, we're 3 minutes away from your local forecast. If we shift gears from Tuesday to Wednesday, new low starting to form to the lee of the Rockies. Temperatures cooler today, warmer tomorrow. Up and down as we tap into some Arctic air from the north. Big snow developing in the long-range forecast for Ontario, and also a potent storm system for the Atlantic provinces. So it's great that you're here because I can explain a little bit more about why and how these things are happening. And then your local forecast in 2.5 minutes, well, it'll break down the exact numbers. How cold, how warm, how much snow, and what about that rain, because there's more coming for some. The snowfall forecast through Friday morning. So this is two clipper systems. Today's, which is pushing off through Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Some morning snow around Edmonton and some fog and freezing fog and mist in a number of places. Conditions are going to become a little more active in the prairies later tomorrow with our new clipper system. And then our low tracks east, follows the jet stream or storm track on through Manitoba into Ontario, just as a Colorado low is taking shape in the U.S. Now, the main circulation will be around this center. Counterclockwise spin, so although it would be warming up ahead of the low, will be dramatically cooling down behind the storm system. Windy weather could be a challenge for travel. Saturday during the day, gusty conditions across the south, followed by cold winds flowing across the lakes. And what that means, oh, and by the way, there may be some thunder as well. Thunder and lightning, it's just a sign of some convective potential here with this strong low and cold air aloft. And that cold air aloft flowing across the open waters of the Great Lakes, the setup for lake effect snow. I know that's a lot, isn't it? It is a Great Lakes storm. This is typical in November. It doesn't look like the most extreme type of windstorm. We're at the moment forecasting gusts in the range of 60 kilometers an hour, but November storms, which are sometimes called November witches because they intensify so rapidly across the Great Lakes, they can sometimes get to widespread 80 to 100 kilometer an hour winds. And then there's the snow. One model, the European model, suggesting very heavy snow in parts of northern Ontario. So some snow coming through tomorrow, and then a swath as the colder air settles in, potentially of 20 to 40 centimeters of snow. That rain snow line will push up past North Bay and then behind it snow. So really dynamic weather. I suggest you check back with us as we fine tune the forecast going towards the weekend. Meanwhile, high pressure, sounds like a lot, doesn't it? High pressure settling in, rain showers pushing across the southern parts of Atlantic Canada, a more potent storm coming in the next couple of days, the cold air flooding down across the Great Lakes. The clash of air mass is really what sets up storms any time of year, and particularly at this time of year as warm air is in retreat and cold Arctic air tries to advance. Deep trough in the jet stream, cold air over warm water. That's the right setup for a rapidly intensifying low. That's coming up. Your local weather's here. A big, beautiful country we have. And today we've got snow and rain and also wind in Atlantic Canada, both coasts. There's a little bit of snow up in Whitehorse too. The Arctic actually, no big storms right now, but plenty of active weather east, west, north and south. It must be November. Fall season. We had some snow this morning around Halifax and Mahone Bay and through Guysborough County and up through Cape Breton. That low's kind of spinning around, slow mover. Few showers for the Burin and Avalon Peninsulas. Newfoundland, no big storms for you today, and that's good news. Often it can be very active this time of year. Meanwhile, back in Ontario and Quebec, as we move our way west, we've got showers moving into, well, Canada's biggest city, Toronto, in time for the afternoon drive tomorrow. And some snow in the north, rain changing to snow north of Georgian Bay. A good couple of centimeters of accumulation here, but instead of 2 to 5, it could be 20, 25 or more for the big storm on the weekend, and I'll get to that in just a second. Low heads east. Rapid intensification. This is a bigger storm for Atlantic Canada by the end of the week. And if you're just joining us now, just a couple of minutes away from your local forecast, likely to be a very powerful windstorm with a lot of rain for the maritime provinces. A rapidly intensifying low that we sometimes refer to as a weather bomb in terms of how quickly it strengthens. So looking at the potential of that for the end of the week. Rain, snow, an active weekend ahead. Now I see a whole lot more blue here than I see green. That is going to be a big snow as a big snow storm as a finisher for parts of the north. But the rain's going to push all the way up past Georgian Bay initially, and then a quick cool down late day Saturday. So some key things we're following in the long range forecast. Deep trough in the jet stream, active weather ahead. You ready for the next part? The West Coast, deep trough in the jet stream. This is a fantastic tool that we use so often, both on the air and behind the scenes. Satellite and radar. Radar shows precipitation. Green is rain and blue is snow. And I know we're fairly wide here, but you get the idea. That onshore flow, big counterclockwise spin, and that's a prime breeding ground for storms. And we had a very significant windstorm yesterday with ferry delays and power outages both here at home and in Washington State. In fact, it was a deadly storm in the U.S. At least one person that I'm aware of lost their life when a tree came down on their car. It is the stormy season. It is a wet stretch ahead and underway. And at times, to the lee of the Rockies, we get these storms reform, not as storms, but as fast-moving systems that we call clippers. So in your local forecast coming up in a few moments, you'll see the effects of one departing low and the next incoming system with snow late week.